Hey there, Wicked Title folk. Cheryl here. Welcome to the premiere episode of Wicked Brickhouse Title Sessions, the title operations therapy session you didn't know you needed. The title industry is chaotic. Every day we balance strict compliance requirements with the demands of agents, lenders, buyers, and sellers. And so I am here with Nancy Gusman of Brickhouse Consulting, and she helps title and escrow companies cut through the chaos by refining workflows, training teams, and building systems that reduce stress, elevate the client experience, and create a streamlined and empowered environment for everyone involved. So, Nancy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, sure. It's fun.
So, you have been helping title agencies for how long now?
I have been in the industry since 1986.
That's a while. You have probably seen just about everything.
I've seen a lot.
I always think like, oh, I must have like seen everything by now, and then something else surprises me. I'm not
I
sure you
get
can see
something new every
everything.
day.
Yeah. So, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing title companies face in today's title environment?
So, they have challenges because over time, so in my experience, starting in 86, title companies are still operating pretty much the same way they always did. The only thing that has changed is regulatory requirements and technology. Everything else that we're doing, from the time we get a contract in to the time we close the file and don't look at it again, is pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're in 2026 now, and you've got a different level of liability, you've got a different level of risk, and you've got different expenses. And we also have a much larger variety of title companies. And so what works
So
for one,
what do you mean by variety of title companies? Can you give me some examples?
yeah, size is one of them. So
Sure.
back in 1986, we didn't have national title companies.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, uh, Prior to 2020, we were almost all brick and mortar.
Hmm.
So a lot of things have changed. And so we still have some companies that are brick and mortar, and we still have some jurisdictions in the country where people actually come into the office to do their closings, and the buyers and sellers are all sitting at one table. But in a
Yep.
lot of other jurisdictions, everything's done remotely now. Either we're
Yep.
sending a mobile closer to their house or office, or they're doing Ron,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. People are not all in one place at the same time signing documents anymore.
Yeah.
Um, in some jurisdictions, and in other jurisdictions, they are still doing that.
So it's giving us some really different business models because
Yes.
how you're going to do business to accommodate in-person closings versus, remote and online ones, it's going to be really
Yeah.
different.
We also have a big difference in size of title companies.
Yeah.
So in 1986, the way we defined a small title company versus a large title company was very different from the way we define that today.
So what is the difference? How would you have defined it in 86 and how would you define that today?
So in 1986, most title companies, um, or law practices, depending on where you are, um, it was just they worked out of their office. There was one office. You might have five or six offices in various locations regionally. So, like I did work for a title company in the late 80s that had, I think, five or six offices around the region so that it was more convenient for people to get to them. Um, but so that was a bigger company because they had five offices as opposed to just the one office that they operated out of. Now you've got the company during the boom years, I would have defined it a lot differently. Part of it was the number of offices, but part of it was the number of closings they were doing. Okay. So during the boom years, you had some title companies that were doing 1 to 200 closings a month, and you had other title companies that were doing thousands of closings a month. I don't like to base it on revenues because depending on where you are, your revenues are going to be different for the same number of closings. So in some places, you're earning $1,500 per closing on average. And in other places, you might be earning $3,000 average per closing. Okay. So I don't like to base it on revenues. I like to base it on the size of the actual company. So how many people are involved? How many offices do you have? And the number of closings that they are producing for the number of people that they have.
I feel like that could be a little bit misleading if they're outsourcing a lot of services. So that could probably throw you off too, but you have to measure somehow.
Right, exactly. And again, it's kind of a combination of things. Because like you said, you're outsourcing some of the stuff. So in 2005, to do 300 closings a month, you really needed at least six people in your office.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe more.
Yeah. It was
In
very labor intensive.
Yes, in
Technology has allowed us to automate an awful lot.
yes, in 2026, to do 300 closings a month, you might only need three or four people,
Right.
depending on how much technology you have and depending on how much you're outsourcing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I tell me some more about some of these challenges. Do you have any particular stories about, you don't have to
I
name names, but a
Yeah,
particular challenge that a
yeah,
title company
I
faced?
do. So like I had one lady who came to me. Her company had grown. This was prior to the pandemic, but not much before the pandemic, okay? And she had told me that, they had started a title company. They had like five people in there. And then all of a sudden, through acquisitions and mergers, they suddenly now had 45 employees. And they
Wow.
didn't have policies and procedures in place for 45 people. So,
Let alone merging because they're coming in with their own standard practices, documented or not.
yeah.
And now they've all got to work together.
Yeah. So you have that, but so you go from flying by the seat of your pants with five people because most business owners, it doesn't matter what industry, most business owners don't think that if they only have four or five people, they don't think they need to have standardized policies and procedures. We're just going to fly
Right.
by the seat of our pants. Everybody knows what they're doing. We can all get this done.
Yeah, you can kind
Okay.
of keep everything in your head. You talk to each other enough to have a good feel about what's going on with all the
Mm-hmm.
transactions. Because, yeah, if you're doing 50 transactions in a month, you can kind of have your thumb on the pulse of things. But if you're doing 300 or 500 a month, there's no way one person can have
Well,
their thumb on the pulse of everything.
correct. And in my world, regardless of the size of your business, you need to have standardized policies and procedures
Yeah,
and processes and systems, and everybody should be operating the same way. And the
yeah,
reason for that, and here comes the attorney hat, the reason for that is risk and liability.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's that. But at any rate, this
I've
book,
talked to title companies that had fraud situations, and literally whether or not their insurance actually covered the fraud came down to whether or not they had documented their standard operating
yep.
procedures, and it
Mhm.
saved them because they had. So
I
yeah, it does
I
matter.
avoided a workers' comp claim because I was able to prove that I had written policies and procedures that my employee had signed saying that she had read them and that she had violated those policies and procedures,
Yeah.
and I got out of a workers' comp claim.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, it
So,
does matter, even if you are just a couple of people.
hmm
Not to mention all of the efficiency gains and quality assurance, and the
yes,
list goes on for why you
yes.
should be documenting your processes.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So at any rate, so this lady came to me and they had grown. They didn't have proper policies and procedures in place. So what I did is I helped them incorporate new, clear workflows. We enhanced the team member engagement,
Nice.
and this resulted in a better accuracy. It the scope of the managers, like the managers had to oversee was now clearly defined,
Hmm.
and they had all of these things. And in order to get the team engagement on all of this, when we started the project, we did. I wouldn't exactly call it a retreat, but sort of a retreat for the whole company where we sat down and said, okay, we need to do this. So we want you as our team members to give us input on
Nice.
the things that you like that we're currently doing, the things you
Mhm.
don't like that we're currently doing, and any recommendations that you have for changes.
That is so important because I usually the place where companies fail when they're trying to implement policies and procedures
Hmm.
is getting the employees on board to actually do the thing that you've asked them to do. And there's no better way to get them to do that than to let them participate in the process.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So another title company, another example is I had a title company that ended up with a big claim related to a wire that they had initiated, but somehow or other it had never reached the payoff
Mm.
lender. And they didn't realize it hadn't reached because they had confirmation, they had bank confirmation of initiating the wire, but they did not maintain confirmation that it had actually gone through.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
they were not following up and maintaining that quality assurance.
Right, because
Yeah.
they assumed, well, if we initiated it, it must have gone through. And they never
Right.
heard anything from anybody saying we never received this.
Right.
They never received any notification from the seller who had been notified that it hadn't been received, but didn't notify the title company.
Right. They probably thought it was just a mistake and ignored it and hoped it would go away.
And a year later, this turned into a total disaster.
Well, I would think by then they're trying to file for foreclosure, right?
Yeah, so yes. So what we did was we implemented a new system for quality control,
Hmm.
and nothing would leave their office without it going through these quality control steps.
Nice.
No CD, no HUD one, even preliminary
Yeah.
goes out without somebody else's eyeballs looking at it to make sure that something didn't get missed.
That's
Not one
so
binder,
important.
not one policy goes out without
Yep.
somebody else looking at it to make sure nothing got missed,
Yeah.
etc. Recordings, the same way. You have somebody going back through the recordings before they get sent
Yep.
to make sure that everything's in order. Um, I had another example of, now I don't remember what it was. It came to me while I was talking about
That's
quality assurance.
you'll
Oh, I
get it,
know
but
what it
I
was.
want
I
okay.
had a situation in my title company one time where we had done all the preliminary HUD ones, and this was commercial, so we weren't using a CD.
Hmm.
We had done all the preliminary HUD ones, and everything was in order on every single one of them. Somehow or other, between the last prelim and the final that went to the table, property taxes just dropped
Oh.
out of the software.
And that's so easy to do. You open the wrong file, you think you're in the right place, you add or remove something, and it turns
Yep,
out you're in the wrong one and you don't know it. It's so
exactly.
easy to do.
Exactly. So we went to the table and the property taxes were not on there.
Hmm.
And then our borrower, it was a refinance, our borrower comes back and says, well, too bad. It wasn't there, so you pay for it. I'm like, no, I don't pay your property taxes.
Yeah. Yep.
But it turned into a problem. So if you have another pair of eyes doing quality control to make
Yeah.
sure that everything is there, and checklists. People
Yes.
hate checklists, but let me tell you, I
Yeah.
have a HUD one CD checklist to
Yeah.
make sure that you didn't leave something off that should have been there.
Yep. And you know what? Let me just say too, for conveyancing checklist especially, it's not enough for a checkbox saying you ordered it.
Right.
You need another checkbox saying received.
Mm-hmm.
So your checklist needs to be twice
Yes.
as long because you
Yep.
really need to have that double check that something was received or
Mm-hmm.
validate that the wire was
Yep.
received for your payoff or that
Mhm.
your release tracking post closing that the releases were all filed for all the things that
Right.
you paid off. Like all these things, you need that follow up in your checklist
Yes,
too. And people miss that all the time. They
they
catch the
do.
first half and not the second.
They do. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So those are a couple of examples of, people that I've helped, things that I've done. But yeah, I mean, and I can come in and, I remember when best practices was first introduced
Hmm.
and everybody was going to have a policies procedures manual. Nobody has a policies procedures manual nowadays. They all think that their best practices manual that their underwriter requires them to have is their policies and procedures manual, but it's
Yeah,
not the
and it's
same.
not the same.
No.
And no two title companies are going to have the same policies and procedures. They
Right.
could be close, but you're always going to have those little differences because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to assign different job roles to people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And all that matters.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
know, and you're going to have clients with different requirements too.
Yes.
When I had my title company, my policy was always that I would communicate directly with buyers and sellers. I'd copy the realtors in on everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't going to play whisper down the lane. I had one realtor come through one time, and they were absolutely appalled that I would dare speak to their seller,
Yeah.
and demanded that everything go through them. So like I had to have notes all over my file for the places where I was willing
Mm-hmm.
to play whisper down the lane. There were a few places where I'm like, no, I'm going straight to the seller. I need to know
Yeah.
that they know this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I had to make those modifications. So, if that was a regular client, then I'd have to have a
Right.
whole separate workflow for that
Mm-hmm.
client.
Well,
So
and the
yeah.
other thing is that if your workflows and systems are exactly the same as all of the other title companies, then what is setting you apart and making somebody want to come to you instead of the guy across the street?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense because if everybody's
Mhm.
doing exactly the same thing, the exact same way every single
And all
time,
charging the exact
and
same
and
thing.
all charging similar prices.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes, and I have had a lot of people price shop. I've had a lot of people call me up and price shop my title services
Hmm.
because the outside world doesn't know that we're all doing the same thing.
Right.
Okay? Or let me rephrase it. They all think that what we do is exactly the same. And so
Hmm.
therefore, it's like buying a loaf of bread. If I can buy a loaf of bread for $1 in at this one grocery store and $2 at this other grocery store, then I'm going to go to the one that's selling it for $1. But
Yeah.
we're not selling a loaf of bread.
Yep.
Our
And
services should be different
yeah,
from company to company, and people should be shopping the service and not the price.
yeah, they really should. And in some areas, the price difference is absolutely
Negligible.
negligible. Depends on the jurisdiction and the rules,
Mm-hmm.
as to what you're allowed to charge, as to how
Mm-hmm.
much differentiation there might be from company to company. But in some areas, you're talking a difference of maybe $100 or $200 in cost.
Yeah.
It's absolutely negligible. The
Yep.
service is definitely what matters.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the largest investment that most people are ever going to make in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
going for the cheapest, lowest service option is not a good idea.
I have actually said to a person when they were price shopping, I was like, okay, so you're buying a $500,000 property and you're worrying about $100 or $200 on the fees.
Yep.
Like that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't. It's wild. I had somebody walk out of an 8-hour closing on 5 properties over $50.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
millions of dollars here, and you are going to walk out over $50. Eventually, we got them to come back in, but they left the building. They were like getting in their car by the time their
Yeah.
agent caught up with
Well, and
them.
sometimes it comes down to the principle.
Yeah.
They're ticked off that they're being charged $50 for something that they don't think they should be being charged for.
Yeah.
And I do sort of understand that part, but when you're the difference between somebody charging a $750 settlement fee or an $850 settlement fee, and you're buying a
Yeah.
$500,000 house, like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yep. Maybe one of them has better coffee.
I don't get it. And the other thing is, but even if, unfortunately, there is this impression out there, and I think it's mostly with the real estate agents and the loan officers because average home buyer or seller don't know the difference.
Hmm.
Um, and there's this perception that we all do the same thing. So if I'm charging $500 more than the guy down the street, we're just going to go with the guy down the street because and save that $500. But
Yep.
that title company that's charging $500 less, are they properly examining that title? Are
Yep.
they properly clearing that title? Are they
Do they
getting
have
your
quality assurance
are
in
they
place?
getting your documents on record timely? Are
Hmm.
they, how many recording rejects do they have versus ones that go on the first time?
Yep.
Um, are they dispersing properly?
Yeah.
Are
And on
they,
time.
yeah, are they making sure that the liens they paid off got released? I
Yep.
mean, so yeah, they might be charging less, but they also might be providing you with a lesser service.
Yep. So, when you're talking with title agencies, can you share a few of the tips of where do you point them to differentiate themselves from their competition?
So for general business purposes, I I use a phrase that is your brand is way more than a website and a logo. Okay. Your brand is how you treat your clients, how you treat your customers. And I differentiate in the title world, I differentiate between clients and customers.
Yep.
The
Yep.
clients are the people who are signing the documents. The customers are your referral partners, your real estate agents, your loan officers, etc. Okay?
Yeah.
So your customers are the people who are referring business into you. Your clients are the people who are actually signing the documents. And you owe a different duty
Hmm.
to your clients versus the duty you owe to your customers.
Yeah.
And in most instances, we owe a fiduciary duty to our clients, which we do not owe to our customers.
Right.
However, that said, um, when I'm working with a company, the first thing I do is I do this in a unique manner, okay? But I have a series of questions for them that will make me understand what their vision is, what their mission is, what kind of a culture they want to have in their company. Okay.
Nice.
And I don't do a vision statement or a mission statement or a culture statement or any of that other stupid stuff that people have out there. For me, it's simply an exercise to learn more about what they want their company to look like from the
Right.
outside. Okay. And then what I do is I help them create systems, processes, workflows, etc., that are going to reflect that brand.
I love that. That is so
Okay.
great.
And so that's what I do is I work with my company owners to figure out how we can create a client experience, a customer experience that reflects your brand.
I love that. And, I think you're right. I think that is the key place where you can and should differentiate yourself from your competitors.
Yes.
So, it really is a question of what can you do that's going to create a better and different customer experience. And, there's room for so many. There's no right one because all of the customers and all the clients are different. They're going to have different needs, different wants. You know, what it looks like to provide a great customer experience for elderly clientele
Mm-hmm.
is definitely going to be different than the client experience that first-time home buyers are going to need. And, realtors coming from different brokerages are going to need different kinds of support and expect different things from their referral partners. So,
Well, it's
yeah,
also what clients and customers are you willing to work with? Because
absolutely.
we should not be, and I hate to use this term so loosely, but we should not be whores to whoever's sending us business,
Yeah. Yep.
whoever's coming in our door. We have the right to pick and choose who we want to do business with.
Yeah.
Okay. So if
Yep.
you have, I don't care if it's the buyer or the seller or the real estate agent or the loan officer, if you have somebody who is too difficult to deal with or who doesn't fit in your box of who you want your customers and clients to be, then you need to be able to uninvite them.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
might want to look so what my box looks like at my title company may be different from what your box looks like at your title company.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
they should be going to the one so if I'm trying to attract millennials who make over $100,000 a year,
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to set up my systems, processes, workflows to attract millennials who make over $100,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You may have a box where you want to focus in on low to moderate income people.
Yep.
Okay. And so if we set up our workflows, our systems, our processes to reflect our brand, then the low to moderate income people are going to know to come to you.
Yep.
And the millennials who make over $100,000 are going to know to come to me.
Yeah.
But if we,
Absolutely.
but if we are mirroring each other's systems, processes, workflows, etc., then they don't know which one to go to.
Right. Yeah, they don't know how to differentiate. And that also means that neither company knows how to properly and best serve that clientele.
Yep.
I one
And
of my favorite conversations that tend to crop up like when we go to big, title events, is phone calls, emails, and text messages. How do you communicate with people? And
right.
different buyer demographics definitely have different
Hmm.
preferences. So yeah, there's lots of ways to differentiate.
So and then in the same vein, while we're trying to create this, I'll call it the internal brand versus the external brand. Okay. While we're trying to create this internal brand, you and I may need different technology.
Hmm.
We might need different software. So
Yeah.
you might need Qualia and I might need SoftPro.
Yep.
Okay. Depending on what we're looking for our title companies to be. We might need to
Absolutely.
outsource different things.
Yeah.
Okay, so I might be doing internal abstracting and you might be outsourcing your abstracting.
Yep.
Same thing with all of the other things. One
Yeah.
person might
One's
need
doing
Prop
in-house
Logics and somebody
clothing.
else might need Require. We all
Yep.
have different needs, and we shouldn't just be going to a specific vendor because everybody else is going to that vendor.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We need
Um,
to we need to vendor shop
yep.
by price and service.
Yeah. Do they do the things that you need them to do?
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago having a conversation with a client who was using Qualia, and they were very, very heavy in commercial transactions. They did very little residential.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, Qualia really wasn't able to handle all the weird, different
Yes.
things that go on
Mm-hmm.
in a commercial transaction. Now, I cannot speak to how much that has changed now. I'm sure it
Mm-hmm.
has, so I am not at all bad mouthing Qualia. I don't know what they have changed in regards to commercial since then, but
Yes.
at the time, like, that wasn't really the right solution for that client, because they just weren't able to meet the need at the time.
Well, and I'll also, and I know you and I have talked about this before. I am so type A when it comes to running my title company. I don't care how you run yours, and I'll help you run yours however you want. But for me personally, I need to customize my software.
Oh yeah, me too. Yep.
So I don't want a plug and play software product.
Yeah.
I want a software product that I can customize with the assistance of the software provider
Yep.
so that
Oh yeah.
I know that everything is operating the way I want it to operate
Yeah.
and etc. Plug and play is great for other people. Some people don't
Yep.
want to do all that work. Some people don't
Yeah.
care. Some
Yep.
people, as long as it's there, I don't care how it's worded.
Yeah.
And again, this might be the attorney in me. I am very specific about wording.
I am too. I have always used all of my own custom documents. I have a whole document library that I've built over the years that
I
everything is
have a
custom.
clause library for my title
Yeah,
insurance documents.
me too. Yep, I'm totally with you there. And yeah, to be able to customize, I still remember, I God, this must have been 99, 2000, being on the phone with SoftPro support and asking them, how do I make your software do XYZ? I think it had
Hmm.
to do with the document merge because I was creating all these custom documents.
Hmm.
Um, and they told me that the software couldn't do it, whatever it was that I was asking for. They're like,
Hmm.
we just can't do it. We don't.
Right.
3 hours later, their software was doing it
Yeah.
because I figured it out. I
Right.
figured out how to make it do the thing that I wanted to do. So at
Hmm.
that point, I knew more about how to work their software than their own support people did.
Right.
And they had several people. Like they transferred
Yeah.
me a couple times. I talked to a whole bunch of people, and everyone's like, "We can't do that." So yeah, the idea that you need a software with support people who can actually provide the
Hmm.
support you need is also really important.
Well,
And everybody has different support needs.
and sometimes when you do that, they'll go back and they'll add that in.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. I ask software companies for
So,
development changes all the time,
yeah.
constantly. And they want that kind of feedback.
Well,
So
and unfortunately, a lot of title company owners and operators, and I'm separating that because sometimes the person who owns it is not the person operating it.
yeah,
But oftentimes your title company owners and operators, they don't understand enough about the technology to know that there could be something else that they could be doing.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
know a lot of people who invested in whichever software product they bought, and
Mhm.
2 years later, they're like, oh my God, I should have gone with this other product because this is not doing what I want it to do.
Yeah.
And you have to do that research up front. You shouldn't be jumping. You should be spending
Hmm.
time. And I know we're spending a lot of time talking about software, but it goes to your insurance products. It
Yep.
goes to your scanners and copiers.
Yeah.
It goes to your computer equipment.
Your
It
phone system.
Your phone system.
Yeah.
Every company has different needs, regardless of what industry you're in. Every
Yeah.
company has different needs. And you shouldn't be buying something because this is what your friend down the street that does the same thing you do has.
Yeah.
Because what you may prefer and what they may prefer it may be different. You and I are a perfect example.
Hmm.
You are so technology literate,
Hmm.
and I am so technology illiterate. Okay? So just because you have something in your office and I go, oh, well, Cheryl knows what she's doing, so I'm going to get what Cheryl bought because she knows all the tech stuff.
Yeah.
That may not fit for what I'm doing. So I have to
Yeah.
do my own homework.
Yep.
I need to go out and do my own research. Now, I might ask you to help me with that, but I'm not necessarily going to buy the same product that you did simply because you know more about technology than I do.
Right. In fact, that could be a key reason why not to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, Nancy, before we kind of wrap things up
Yeah.
here today, I just tell me, why did you get into doing consulting instead of continuing to run your own title agency? What made you make the switch?
So when the pandemic hit, I had a very small title operation. I basically had a boutique title operation. I did specific types of transactions, etc. Um, and when the pandemic hit, I was like, I am not pivoting. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah,
So I shut down my title company, and I had recently met an owner of a title company that did stuff very similarly to me. So I did a little bit of research on them and determined that they do things very similar to the way I do it. And so what I did is I just started running all of my closings through them. And which was great for me. It's like that was a huge lift off my shoulders.
yeah,
And so for a while I just focused on practicing law and
Hmm.
closing down my title company because it can take 2 years to close down a title company.
Yeah, it takes time.
So I focused my energy on practicing law and on closing down my old company. And then in the fall of 21, I was at um, the first live Alta One after the pandemic shut down.
Hmm.
Okay. And as I'm going through all these committee meetings there were two common threads. One was people needed to bring new talent in, and they didn't have the time or the resources to train them.
Hmm. Because they never documented their processes and procedures.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other issue was that, if everybody remembers, during the pandemic, we had a sudden spike in business, and
Hmm.
nobody was prepared for that sudden spike in business. So now
Yeah.
all of a sudden, not only do you have more business than you have employees to handle it,
Hmm.
there aren't systems and workflows in place to handle this volume of business.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
even
under
back during
unusual
the boom, it was
circumstances.
gradual,
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
were able to gradually ramp up. But in this case,
Yeah. It
like
was
people
very
went
sudden.
from 5 closings a month to 30 closings a month, and that's a whole
Yeah.
different system and workflow.
Yeah. Yep.
And so the concept was born at that conference. And it took me a couple of years to try to figure out what it would look like. And I was taking in clients kind of on an experimental basis,
Yeah.
and seeing where that was going to take me on, because I was offering training and I was
Hmm.
offering the operational systems work and stuff. And so it took me a while to figure out what people need,
Yeah.
what they want, which is not always the same thing,
Right. What
and
they think they need.
all right, and figuring out how to build out my programs and services. And so now I'm rolling into it. I'm very excited that this is going to help me roll into retirement because I'm hoping to retire in 5 years.
Nice.
And it's one of those things that I can retire gradually with.
Yeah. Yep. You can decide how many clients you take on.
Right. And I can
So,
create online content that will create residual income for me. So
yep.
yeah,
So what does 2026 look like for you? Are you currently accepting new clients?
I am. I am.
What
I
what
am
kind of
absolutely.
clients are kind of your best match?
So my niche audience is the title world. I
Yep.
will work with other types of businesses also. But my niche obviously is the title world, which has its own idiosyncrasies that other
Oh
businesses
yeah.
don't have to deal with.
Yes, they do.
So I can help you navigate that. I'm setting up, I'm actually starting to take registrations for some group coaching.
Nice.
So I'm bringing in clients. The groups won't be more than 6 or 8 people because we want to keep it concise, but I'll create as many groups as I need to for whoever's interested. I do one-on-one. I can come into somebody's company and just work one-on-one exclusively with them and design something specifically for them. Um, I also offer workshops on various topics like business planning, just how to run a business.
Yeah.
Like just like great, you're really talented. You've got a talent, you've got a passion for doing title work, but do you know and understand the business side of running a business,
Yeah.
which is not title specific?
Yes. Yep. It's very
Okay.
different and you got to be able to do both.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
How do you handle all that administrative crap that you don't want to do because you actually want to be just doing title work, but somebody
Yeah.
has to run the business?
Yeah. So for all those new startups, that is definitely a really important piece to get under your belt.
Well, it's also for the people who've been in business for a while because sometimes they have not been doing a very good job. They're now
Yeah.
tied to their desk 80 hours a week. They're missing their kids' after school activities. they're missing out on other family things that they would like to be doing. They're not necessarily home having dinner with their family. Um,
Yep,
I can get you there. I can help you reorganize how you run your business
that's
so that
huge.
you're not working 80 hours a week. You're working closer to 50 hours a week.
And we are heading into tax season, so I will say, if your accountant hates you, that might be a sign that you need to come talk to Nancy about how you run your business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, your insurance. I mean, I can help you reduce your risk and liability, and it'll reduce your E&O premiums.
Yep.
It
And
will,
it'll make sure they pay out that claim when you expect them to.
yes,
Yeah.
it'll also strengthen your relationship with your underwriters and maybe get you a better split.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many different aspects to how you run your business and the administrative things that are so important.
Yep.
Vendor management, payroll, HR, all these things that people don't really want to deal with.
And I will tell you what, the numbers don't lie. The amount of improvement to your bottom line, your actual profitability, is so much more when you can cut your costs, and that includes improving your efficiency,
Hmm.
than it is by increasing sales.
Right. So,
There's so much less effort needed to
yes,
reduce your operating costs and improve your efficiency to boost that bottom line
my
than it is to go bring in more business.
right. I want to help you bring in additional revenues, but I would rather help you turn those revenues into profit.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Nancy, I think that is a great place for us to stop. Thank you
Okay.
so much for being with
Thank
me.
you for inviting me.
And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, where do they find you at?
They can get me at www.mybhexperience.com, or you can email me at nancy@mybhexperience.com.
Great. And I will include a link in the show notes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.